Welcome back. Thank you for your company this morning. Well, and when it comes to buying a new car, how do you know you are getting the best and the right deal? More often than not, it's women who are getting done over by dodgy deals and overpaying for extras they don't really need. So how do you stop yourself from being ripped off? Here from Madam Wills with her top tips is the lovely Jackie Hayes. Hi, Jackie. Hello. What evidence have you got that women are more likely to be affected by dodgy deals?
I think it's important to note straight up that in the motoring world industry for the past decade, research has consistently shown that women are the drivers of most car purchases.
Yes.
And the car brands are aware of this, and they're trying very hard, apparently, to adjust their things. So they're, from the automobile design right down to the showroom floor, they say that they're trying to improve the experience. But women aren't feeling the love. They say that, in general, they feel intimidated, patronised, aggressive sales techniques coming their way. They don't believe they're taken seriously. And ultimately, this can result in them buying cars that they don't really want.
So the problem is dodgy sort of chauvinist dealers targeting women and trying to rip them off because they assume that women don't know as much as men when buying a car.
Yeah, so basically the classic is sometimes that they will start with the top-of-the-range car, assuming that the woman's not really across the options, and they'll start talking about the fantastic features like the great paint job, the terrific wheels, the heated steering wheel, and it's very easy to fall in love with those features and think that you need them, and it's very hard to back down from that.
I like my heated seats, I have to say.
If you live in Melbourne, you need those. Absolute must-have.
What are some other sorts of dodgy tricks that salesmen might do?
Well, like I said, women are calling the shots, though, and they are quite intimidating to women. And so what women need to do, though, when they go into a buying situation like that is know that they're operating in a position of power. They've got to own it. They've got to go in there knowing that these guys are trying to sell to the women. And so they can't be pushed. They can't be pushed over. They have to just stand up and own the room and say, yeah, you know, just say yes.
I think the best way to do it is to go in and say to the salesman, I want to see the engine. Would you open the bonnet, please?
Yep, that's right.
And you look in there as if you know what it is. You've got a clue. Yeah. You've got a list of tips that you suggest we all follow. What's the first one?
Well, the first one is that women are the strongest in this buying situation, and they can't be a pushover. The sales is a psychological game, and they have to say no until the dealer says yes. And if the dealer doesn't say yes, they should leave and go off to the next dealer.
Should you take a bloke with you?
Well, I mean, that's the problem. Normally, if you do take a man with you, they will speak with the man. They'll speak with the man.
That sort of reinforces the problem, doesn't it?
And they won't, yes. And keep the emotion out of it. I think that's the really important thing for women. Tip number one, keep the emotion out. Don't let them know that you actually are in love with their vehicle. Don't start talking paint colours and earliest delivery dates, because once they hear you talk like that, all they're going to hear is ka-ching.
Yeah. Are you sure women really talk like this? I mean, I usually say to the guy, will it beat a Mercedes off at the lights? But I want to know about...
Well, this is the attitude.
I want to know about the speed, you know, I don't want to know about all that other nonsense.
Well, that's an important factor. If that's what matters to you, that's...
Is it a bit of bluff you've got to have?
I think so. You do. You have to just stand your ground and do your research, understand what the competitors are.
Well, it's easy to get pressured, but of course there can't be any sale unless you hand over the money. So as you say, you're the one holding all the cards.
That's right.
Would you advise going to a smaller dealership, or are the bigger franchises better?
I think the rule of thumb really is the largest dealerships are better, because those businesses cost an enormous amount of money to run, and they need to move metal, 200 cars a month in some cases. And the salesmen there often have quotas that they need to meet. If they don't meet them, they don't get paid. So they are under pressure to actually do the job. So I'd say go to 3 different dealerships, even go to one interstate if you've only got 2 of one particular of your brand that you're going after in your town. And once the locals know that you are shopping around, they'll be more willing to deal.
Excellent.
What about buying cars as soon as they hit the market, when you see a new model and think, gosh, that's fabulous? Should you buy straight away?
Unless it's a Ferrari, I would say no, because those things go and they're rare. So otherwise, I would just say give it a few months, wait for the showrooms to fill up, because once there's more stock, they need to move it again. Often these cars are they have finance on them, so they need to ship them. The longer they're on the showroom floor, the more expensive it is for them. So they're, again, more willing to deal. If you can see 3 of the car you like on the showroom floor, there's probably another 5 out the back.
When did you get interested in cars?
I'd say a decade or so ago I started driving them, and the more I drove them, the more addicted I became to them. The more driving, instructing courses that I've done, the more I love the speed. And the more I've come to appreciate through writing about it, just how women aren't catered for, despite the fact they are such an important segment of the market.
They make the majority of purchasing decisions.
82% in this country of car purchases are made by women.
Yes.
It's quite a high
I
number.
like brands. I'm a bit brand driven.
Yes.
Do you recommend I don't get sort of too het up on sticking to a particular brand?
No,
of car?
I think that there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think if you have got the service, and this is another point too, that if you're with a company that's looking after you, that's providing you the service ongoing, back up, in touch with you, that's showing that they're interested in you and that they care about you. And I think that's gold in this day and age.
And you also say that you should write it all down. Why is that necessary? What do you write down?
Yeah, I think if you make a deal to buy something, you make sure that you get those things at the end of the day. I know of a guy who turned up to pick up his car and the mats that he'd ordered as part of the deal weren't in the car. So he asked for them, the salesman pushed back, he tore up his $200 cheque, just left.
So it's like,
On
write
the
down, you're going to
principle.
have mats,
Yeah.
tinted glass,
Yes.
Everything.
whatever you're going to have. Right.
Jackie, also there seems to be a lot of controversy over finance that they try and sell you as part of the dealership or as part of the car.
Yeah.
What would you advise with that type of finance? Because that can be a very, very tricky area.
Yeah, you really have to know what the end game is with
Yes.
that, because that is really what will determine whether or not it's a good deal for you. So you just have to look at the details, and you know, unless it's through work, you have to really judge whether it's of relevance to you.
And I'm not sure if this is a myth or not, but you touched on it earlier. Dealers often have to make quotas and that are monthly quotas or quarterly or financial yearly quotas. So is it better to go at the end of the month when they're desperately trying to move stock to get their payments from higher up the franchise chain?
Yes.
When they're prepared to offload anything in order to make those bonuses?
Yeah, there are times when it's actually more beneficial to go, and it is being aware of what the sort of dealership cycles are, and what time of the year, like you always hear about the end of financial year sales and whatnot. So if you're prepared to take a rolling out model, you don't necessarily need the next one coming in or the facelift. Then go for the cheaper brand.
And Jackie, following on from Jess's earlier point about brands, do you pit brand against brand? Is that a good strategy?
I think it is, and again, it goes back to research. Like if you go into a car dealership, say you're going into Land Rover, you want a Range Rover, and if it's a good salesman, he's going to say to you, what else are you looking at? And if you say, oh, a Toyota Kluger, he's going to know, well, that's so different, that's not relevant.
Yes.
But if you say, oh, an Audi Q7, he's going to say, okay, dang. Okay, we're up against Audi.
And they know what it shows that you know what you're talking about.
It does,
as well.
again. It's more evidence that you've done your research. You're not going to be a pushover. You are more likely to do a better deal.
And as you mentioned earlier, make sure you write everything down and have all the evidence there.
Write it down and also be nice. This is a really important point. Just be nice, because human nature responds to people who are just kind, I think.
Yes.
And if you're nicer, those guys are more likely to give you a break, because if they think you're a good person, you're likely to give them referrals. So it's going to gain them more down the track.
Yeah.
So simple human nature is beneficial.
Yeah.
Indeed. And for more information, you can head to madamwheels.com. Jackie, great advice. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, guys.
Still ahead.